Has anyone heard about a little game called Silksong? Well, it's starting to feel like everyone and your cat is playing it.
Pray for mercy from.
And a lot of people are talking about it, mostly the gameplay and the difficulty. Like, a lot of videos about the difficulty. I mean a lot, like even people who don't talk about hard games like FromSoft games or any kind of difficulty games are talking about the difficulty of this game. Like, way too many.
Your tears are so yummy and sweet.
I love the gaming world when a hard game comes out and it becomes main attraction, and loads of people who never played hard games before come out the woodwork. It happened with Elden Ring, and now it's happening again with this one. There is one subject though I haven't heard much about, the story, aka the lore. I know soon we will get a lot more videos on the story and the lore, but I thought I'd jump on the bandwagon when it's hot. So let's mumble about it. This video will contain spoilers for really only one story throughout the Silksong, this being the Green Prince. I've played a lot of these games. The atmosphere has been guided by a decade of Souls games, and there's really nothing good that happens in these type of worlds. Even though Silksong hides this through a lot of cuteness from the cute little singing person who I expect to kill my heart, and little enemies with weird sounds that sounds weirdly similar to that worm Jerry from Rick and Morty. Remember when Jerry was like a worm? Example A. Example B. It's the same noise. I was mentally prepared for not trying to get too attached to these characters like the map lady or that little guy who rides the bug or the singing youngling. I have no hope for them and I'm fine with that. I have been there. The Onion Knight, Jar Jar and Solaire. I can handle anything. It's like watching Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I'm never watching that film again. Okay? Anyway, this character hit me right in the heartstrings. But was kind of surprising. When you meet this character, you think, he's just another down kind of character. This is a bugged up world and it's understandable. Then you see him and this character seems deeply, darkly depressed. What is the norm in kind of these Hollow Knight series now? We can call it a series now. We're getting a third game with another character. I'm not going to mention what character I think it is due to spoilers. Yeah, we can call it a series. So I know these games are always going to have sad characters what are going to go down this kind of sadness journey, and it's obviously going to continue in other games. You defeat the sad boss who seems like two loved ones dancing in a kind of clockwork fashion. It's a kind of sadness that I haven't felt in a boss since Sif. Sif is obviously a sadder boss, don't get me wrong. In Silksong though, this really shook me at how sad it was and briefly hit me as you defeat one of them and then the next one accepts its fate and doesn't care about death. There's no rage, it's just loss. It really shook me and it just felt like I needed like a slight break. You know when you're watching something really sad or playing something in many cases, you might want to just take a break from what you're watching kind of for a bit, watch something a bit happier. Maybe I don't know, what's a happy thing? Can't think of any happy things right now. Happy. A sitcom. Any sitcom. What's the sitcom I'm on? What, The Office? The Office is... I don't want to keep on saying The Office, though. What's a better sitcom what I'm currently watching? Office finished. Hell Boss? It's quite depressing. I watch too many depressing things. I can't think of anything. Anyway, I went away to kind of... I don't know, get some positive vibes from different things. But instead, I came back... And damn you, Team Cherry. I didn't really go back for a while. I pushed forward, struggled a lot with all the clockwork, platforming stuff, and the fights in this area. Started to forget about the past boss after getting that hoop ability. Then I found the Green Prince again, with the sudden information that the soul of his partner was inside this boss, with him mourning the end of the soul and therefore their love. This was quite a hard shell to swallow at the end of this, or to be kind of midway through. Added such a tragic story here of sacrifice and love, what really is amazing. I don't know how many people really get into the story of these games in general due to the lore being kind of an extra little bit of effort in comparison to other games, but things like this might change your mind as it kind of did with my journey through this game. This is really where I'm up to in the game. I've played it bits and bobs since, but I'm not really going to go much else into other story elements of the game because of spoilers. Only using the prince as an example, really? But it does feel like without this kind of character and how this was presented in the game, I don't know, I don't think I would care about the characters that much, as I do feel like I am a bit desensitized by playing so many FromSoft games and the Hollow Knight before it, so it doesn't feel like I'd be as kind of care about the characters, but I kind of feel more attached to him now. Going from just unlocking this character and then suddenly it became one of the biggest kind of character arcs for me. What's weird It's just kind of great storytelling, so let's dive into it a little bit more. After this kind of heartbreaking story, I kind of locked into the story. When I continued playing, I suddenly started to get more attached to the characters. The way this story is told through the game is one of the most unique ways and kind of different to the original Hollow Knight. It's better paced, as you don't really get lost either in the game, and you kind of want to backtrack more rather than just kind of explore and suddenly get lost. Starting with the atmosphere, when you're dyslexic in a story that is mostly told through text, it can become slightly difficult at times.
I'm not convinced I know how to read. I've just memorized a lot of words.
You know what helps this though? When every song has such a tone to the area, and then the bosses will add so much to the story. As someone who only really started to get into video game soundtracks, the Silksong one has really kept with me to the point that I'm humming the song when I'm not playing, kind of like I'm addicted to the lore.
I'm sorry.
Going back to the Clockwise Dancers and the Green Prince, as this video is basically about that whole kind of story in this game, the story here is so deep into the lore of this character, this boss that we technically just met. There's no real lead into the story of what this new boss is. All we see is these two electronic kind of people fighting and dancing, but then as a boss fight goes, the story develops, so does the song. What starts off as a slow melody of love, a ballroom kind of dance, what quickens as the dance continues. I don't know any dances to compare this to. What's a fast but still poetic dance? The Doo-Doo number 9, and it goes fast and it really shows a love story between them, and as one falls, the other just kind of surrenders to the death without the other, without the love. Good story, but it's also so sad.
Not crying, it's just been raining.
Alongside the song in general that has a clock type tone to it, kind of puppet master type thing going on, like a feeling to it, being kind of what it's controlled by the Citadel. The Citadel? The Cathedral? Is it Citadel? Cathedral? Cathedral, I think it's Cathedral. Played 30 hours of this game, I should know. Anyway, what does seem to be a trend throughout this whole game? It would make sense that this would be an intended element because it is kind of the feeling of when you see different enemy types, and especially in this boss. There are other songs as well what kind of start to telling a story, but I haven't really fully dived into these. They're good songs, don't get me wrong. I like the Last Judge one. I think that has a more complex kind of beat to it and meaning, but I haven't really thought about it as much as this. And most bosses do have this deep lore even in the music. It very much feels like the writers of this game kind of put barriers in front of them so they can go down these different avenues and put so much focus into them instead. And it feels like music was obviously a massive one in this game. Another element from Team Cherry is the atmosphere in different areas, all dangerous in their own right, but all have their own lore and story to tell. To me, this area where the dancers are is very much set around control, but at a higher level, unlike the other areas where you kind of see these general guards in some places. But in this, you kind of see these royal guards and they evolve into these clockwork kind of enemies, what seemingly shows this fear and creation of these beasts to protect something, but most likely something in the Citadel. I'm not there yet. That's just all the atmosphere I kind of got to the boss fight and around that area. To me, the enemies that look to be controlled by what seems to be a higher power, making it easier to kind of capture the soul and put it into these machines so they can protect themselves with it, rather than controlling people. They control the souls, what might be easier in this universe, world, I don't know. I'm just making this up at this point. That's just all kind of the atmosphere that I've been basically told by Team Cherry, and that's kind of what I'm beating this off. The kind of atmosphere has been created, has been written, a story of its own connects to the boss fights. The surrounding area connects to this boss fight, and it kind of connects to these stories of the characters. The music as well, you see throughout the game, this adds up to this interest in what is actually happening around the kind of boss fights in these other areas. The music changes and manipulates what is happening around you. As I mentioned, you had no clue what the dancers really were when you first met them, but they quickly attached to you so quickly through the fight that even the frustration kind of melts away so quickly afterwards. What makes such a well-written boss fight, and it looks to be leading to something even more down the line. Team Cherry though have kind of put this game out with limitations. What I would generally watch the silent film. Well, I would watch it. Would you watch it? Would you watch a silent film of Silksong or Hollow Knight? It does feel like this was a choice long ago in the development, as realistically the big boss could have had a cutscene. However, instead they took their time to kind of develop every other element to evolve these stories forward. I don't want to say cutscenes are easier, as that isn't the case, as that's difficult to develop, but for story-wise, it's maybe the most easiest way to tell the story. Even the big OG hard games of the modern day, Dark Souls, aka now Elden Ring I suppose, or OOG, Demon Souls, use cutscenes to push the story forward to an extent, to welcome you to the new boss fight, or something big happens in the world. Instead, Silksong takes a little more subtle approach through just a war cry. Also, while we're dissecting one boss and technically one character arc through this, we should talk about the Woohoo Dancers war cry. This scream they let off at the beginning of that fight, when you don't really know much about them, but you die and you return and you continue this painful trend of Silksong bosses, you learn more about this boss. And then it kind of clicks in your head. The scream at the beginning is a cry of sadness, of pain, with the soul being trapped in these shells. This was told through a war cry at the beginning of the boss fight, and you know that wasn't just a quick thing. That took days of tweaking to sound that perfect thing for the story, that perfect way of telling their story. And the fact they don't need a cutscene for most elements of this game, they can just use a subtlety of a couple of sounds, adds a massive element to the story. What you don't really learn straight away is just mind-blowing. Alongside though, you may never even find this out. You might never realize this. There's so many different elements in this story that could easily be missed. You may never unlock that cage, find a key, or even go back and see the Green Prince Morning. It's almost a hidden story within the game that evolves to a very interesting part of the game, but if you miss a massive part of the experience of this game. It's also heart-hurting, but you dive into it, it slowly becomes a beautiful, painful story. Did I just do a whole video on just one boss in Silksong? Yes, I did. Will I apologize? No. Will I do it again? Probably. Hope this video puts you on your own journey and kind of figure out anything of this game kind of thing. I literally defeated this boss 2 days ago and it's kind of created this whole story in my mind. I'm not even finished that story. I know it progresses even further, but it's just crazy to me. This story could have been lost depending how you play the game somewhere along the way of your journey through Silksong. It just makes the game so interesting. Originally this was going to be a full-blown hullabaloo review, but by the time I actually finish this game, it does feel like everyone's going to be moved away from it. So I thought I just kind of dived into this story of this one character, and then I thought about making a video on it, and I did, and that's how we got here. And I thought as soon as I try to get closer to making that review, I'll probably drop the game, pick it up next year, because I'll be playing Ghost of Yutua. I can never remember the name. Every time I say Ghost of, it always goes to Gashima, and I can never remember what game it's actually called. It's really irritating, actually. Anyway, that's it for this one, but what do you think of Silksong, and especially this story, and any other your favourite character story in this game? No spoilers down below. I think you can delete him. I'll probably delete him. No spoilers below anyway. Comment below your thoughts on this game and this video if you like it, and remember to like and subscribe for future Mumbles. And I will see you on the next Mumble.